Hey everyone, it's Shelby again. I am here with Wes Little today. We're going to talk a little bit more about the making of Coming Adore and also get to know you, Wes. So tell us a little bit about your music background.
Well, how far back do you want to go?
You go far you want.
I started playing drums at 7 many years ago when dinosaurs roamed the earth. But yeah, I was sort of in school bands and then eventually went to college. Undergrad, got a music degree, and then got my master's degree at Manhattan School of Music. So I lived in New York City for about a decade.
All right.
And I started working professionally when I was an undergrad here in North Carolina. But then I moved up there and I just sort of continued that out of school.
So what brought you to Nashville?
Quite frankly, my wife. But and other factors. I think after there's several things, but after 2001, the music scene in New York changed substantially. And then in 2008, when there was another sort of financial thing, it really seemed to change. So it just made sense in what I wanted to do, which was primarily be in a studio, to move to Nashville. And it also happened to be where my wife was living.
Yeah,
so
it worked out.
It worked out. That's a whole other story, but we were living separately. And in fact, my wife was working with Gina at a radio station here when I was still living in New York.
Wow.
So I knew Gina long before she was even part of the church.
Yeah.
And they worked together, and they didn't think I was real because I lived in the city.
Yeah.
And they're like, when are we going to meet him? And this is going out all over the Nashville airwaves, and I can't even defend myself.
Yeah.
But that's when I moved.
All right.
It was sort of a confluence of wanting to determine a different type of career.
Yeah.
And then, of course, like, this is stupid. Why am I living 14 hours away?
So what's your history of playing music in the church?
Well, how far back do you want to go?
I mean, it's up to you again.
Okay.
Tell us your story, man.
Well, I attended a small Baptist church in Marshville, North Carolina, which is the home of Randy Travis.
Wow.
And I was part of the choir and the handbell choir, but I couldn't read music. So a guy who played trumpet in the high school band with me would write in left, right, because I could read the rhythms, but I just would get confused, even though it was only an A and a B flat.
Yeah.
He was like, no, you can really do this yourself. I'm like, no, I don't know if I can. So handbell choir, and the director would count off every song, 1, 2, ready, play. So that's what it was. And then I was sang in the choir there. Don't tell anybody. And at some point I got into drums, and I was always fascinated with the PA system they had at the church that some traveling troupe had brought with them coming through. And the pastor bought it off of them. So I was always like looking at the PA during the sermons. And I played Go Tell It on the Mountain with the church organist. And that was probably my first performance at church.
Debut.
Yeah. So the choir was singing, it was drums and the organ. And I thought maybe the drums might be evil for some people. So that probably got me in the whole, idea of better play quietly here. But it was just kind of funny. I remember getting compliments of going to town in drums, aren't you? Yeah.
You still get those comments?
Maybe not in that vernacular. But
yeah.
So that was, and then here I played in some churches in New Jersey.
Okay.
With a buddy of mine. And then Cross Point, I played there for a while.
Okay. So how long have you been here at Providence?
Wow. Why do you have to ask the hard questions? I think, ask Gina.
Yeah.
But I think it was 2017, 18. So it's been 5 or 6 years.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's move into the album. So what was it like for you? Like, this is your, day in, day out job to, you get people in your home studio all the time. So what was it like for you to get the calls like, hey, Wes, we're making another album. Let's do it.
Well, it was really great in that, there's only one person, Brian, I really don't like. So no,
why
kidding.
is that? No.
It's a whole thing.
Long list.
But we're actually fine. We're very much fine. This is a joke. I have to do it. I have to throw a little shade.
Brian's our bass player.
Brian's the bass player. And I'm actually playing with Brian tonight.
Oh,
so it's all good. But yes, it was great to have everybody in because, everybody's like friends. And we were able to, there weren't any egos.
Yeah.
Everybody had opinions, but they had a nice way of delivering those opinions, which I think is really helpful in the studio.
Yeah,
because
for sure.
What I've learned, whether I'm playing drums or engineering or producing or what have you, is that, everybody has nerves in the studio. And how they deal with those nerves can really form how well the recording goes. And that is a snapshot in time. So it's better to have everybody as relaxed and as happy as they can be. And that's also why Brian and I bust on each other frequently. If you only knew what happened backstage in a nice way.
Yeah. So how does this, are there more examples of like differences? Like you were talking about that there wasn't any ego or anything like that. What's the difference between making a regular record and then working with Providence on this record?
Well, I think everybody certainly has a mindset that is a Christian mindset. So I think that helps. I think by definition, that is one that is typically not looking inward at what you want first. So I think we all have our thoughts and feelings, but I think that's what makes the difference.
Yeah.
And I think, my great uncle was a minister. My mom and my aunt both were, my aunt's a deacon, but I guess what I'm saying is there's been church involvement throughout my life. And I've seen some of the dysfunctions of the church. And luckily, I don't feel like we're in that here.
Yeah.
There's always going to be things. People are people, and human beings do what they do. But I think that was really one of the things that I think could separate it.
Yeah.
And, of course, it's music that is very much connected to what people believe. And I think that's when music is best performed.
Yeah.
So it's like there's no like, and of course the original songs, some of them, right?
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember which ones. Sometimes it's hard. But we have songs that people have written that they believe in, or at least that they've heard, like Cremain did his own version of O Come Emmanuel. And so there's definitely skin in the game.
Yeah.
People are invested both in what they believe and their love of music.
Yeah.
But they're able to temper that with, I think, an appropriate heart.
Yeah, absolutely. So in those moments in the studio, do you have like a favorite moment or moments that stuck out to you that, is kind of like, not like a light bulb moment, but it's like, wow, this is really cool to work in this environment with these people since it is so different?
Yeah, I think, it's, if I'm completely honest, we do it so much, sometimes things run together.
Yeah.
But yeah, there were definitely moments when you could hear somebody really enjoying singing their song, or that they've written, or that's very important to them. So those moments just sort of globally stand out. When Brian would make a mistake and I could point and laugh, that was a good moment. No, but and I think just in general, just for me, for me, because it's what I love to do, but it is what I do for a living.
Mm-hmm.
So when everybody's just, there's sort of a kinship and everybody's laughing and things are, generally light, it's just a great environment in which to work.
Yeah.
So that stands out to me pretty prominently too. I mean, I guess if I'm listening to the record, it will occur to me like, oh yeah, that was great when that happened.
Yeah.
But generally, I think it's, just those things globally that stand out to me.
Yeah. So for you guys, kind of behind the scenes, tracking day, when I interviewed John, I told you I was in one little room, John was in another little room, and then Brian and Wes were in the big room playing bass and drums. And Wes was sitting right next to a computer too. So Wes, how do you manage, he does all the things on the computer, hits record, turns around, counts us in, and then leads the song where it goes.
Well, yes. Because of budgets, and certainly, I'm trying to be budget conscious.
Yeah.
Certainly if it's something like for here or for friends or whatever. We are able to combine duties.
Yeah.
So rather than calling a percussionist, I'll play a tambourine.
Yeah.
When the string players came in, rather than have 16, they had 4 that would double their parts.
Yeah.
So this is the way that we're able to save money. It is a little nerve-wracking, but what was great about it is everybody had grace with me on that, in that we are working. There is an hour that we need to be done by. But, I can hit record once I get everybody set. Yeah. And as long as everybody has patience, we can get through it and save a little money.
Yeah.
But part of that tracking is, just sort of like in the pandemic, I learned that I needed to be able to have a mirror image of what I would deal with in the other room.
Yeah.
Because I was using an iPad. It was so frustrating.
Yeah.
So I just kind of learned how to do it by myself and took advice of some people that were knowledgeable. And that's now when I do remote tracks for people like I did in the pandemic, I can just run it myself.
Yeah.
So it's, if something's budget constrained or, I want to do somebody a solid or whatever.
Yeah. Cut some corners.
Yeah. But, it's always better to have an engineer and they're working and me just laughing and pointing at Brian. But,
So what was your perspective? What was it like on the day that the string players came in? Because we had a different engineer that day. So what was your setup? Kind of what was the creative process for that?
Well, Cremain has an engineer who really understands his process for tracking, and it's a good process. So I think Josh really knew how to make that run quickly and efficiently because, those are more higher guns than even, certainly the chord unit that's here. So we have to be respectful of their time and budget. So I think he was able to dial that in quickly and get the desired result. But it's great to hear strings in that room.
Yeah.
I really am a fan of strings and horns. So to hear them and then hear it coming back is pretty amazing. But I thought they did a great job, but that is a case where it just makes more sense.
Yeah.
And Josh can engineer, and I may have even been working was I there?
Yeah. Oh yeah, you were there.
I was there? Okay, good. Did I stay?
You're in and out.
Okay, good. As long as everything was working, that's good. All right, cool.
Yeah. So in your life, in your spiritual life, you've been with Providence for several years. And we have, this concert coming up for this album. But beyond that, in this Advent season, you kind of get a unique perspective back there at the drum set where you're doing your thing, but you're not singing or doing anything like that. So you can just kind of look around.
And I do.
And you do, yeah.
Yes.
What is that perspective, and what do you hope to see coming in this Advent season?
Well, in Advent and just in general, people come to church, I think, with an expectation. And everyone has different expectations. Some people, I think, have biases or maybe have had things in the past with the church that affects them negatively.
Yeah.
Some people come in and they're looking for inspiration.
Mm-hmm.
So when I scan the room, my wife always thinks I'm watching the camera.
Yeah.
But I'm looking at my iPad, and then I'll look at Jenny. But when I'm not doing that, I'm scanning the room, I'm seeing how people are being moved spiritually through the music.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's probably the best part of being in that position is that besides seeing, your hair in a ponytail, I can just see how it's affecting them.
Yeah.
And I think it really makes a difference in the whole process of church worship.
Yeah.
And there are many references to it in the Bible with music from David to whomever. So I think it's an important part of the process.
Yeah.
So I do think it sort of has a synesthetic connection for people with just Christmas and how they enjoyed it. But a lot of people come here, as was noted, on Sunday, with problems, with baggage.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it just kind of helps everybody sort it out a little bit. It doesn't necessarily, it is for some people, it's a season of great cheer.
Mm-hmm.
And for others, it's a season of grief.
Yeah.
And I think if we're realistic about it, but I do think it moves people.
Yeah.
In hopefully a more positive direction.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my thought on it.
Mm-hmm.
But I do see people, I see them moved by it, and I think, well, this is a pretty great thing.
Yeah.
That this is able to improve their day.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I think people often will leave here feeling better than they did when they came.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Unless we got here at 5:45. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
So let's talk about your creative process. Mm-hmm. So, tracking day comes, we do all the things, you've recorded all of that, mm-hmm. Everybody leaves, then what do you do?
Well, unfortunately, the creative process is mostly as we're making music. Then it becomes, and this, everyone that dealt with this from Lee to Brent to Cremain, mm-hmm. There's sort of the grunt work.
Yeah.
So he had to make sure all the charts were printed. And then, so now I'm looking at the tracks, and it's sort of like clerical work. I'm cleaning them up, mm-hmm. making sure there's no noise, making sure we might have punched in that those are correct. And then I consolidate mm-hmm. all those tracks, and I send them to Lee.
Yeah.
And there was some process there where I guess there's a little creativity if I'm doing a rough mix or something.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh man, this might sound cool, or I'll put this but I'm doing it so quickly mm-hmm. because it's for people to hear, to learn their parts to sing, or mm-hmm. Cremain to write an arrangement, or what have you. So unfortunately, the fun part is the tracking day. And, if I'm seeing it all the way through, tracking someone's vocal, producing that, and maybe mixing it, which I'm getting more into, is part of the creative process.
Yeah.
But a lot of it after that, it's just sort of
the grunt work.
I mean, I hate to say it.
No,
but,
it is.
You'll do it with video. You know how it is.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, you get to do the fun thing, and it's like, okay, now I got to organize all this.
But then you can see the finished product, which
exactly.
is, it does take a village,
mm-hmm.
so even if you were the village.
Yeah.
So it takes a lot of effort to make a record.
Yeah. And we're really lucky to have had you and Lee to kind of tag team all that with, Cremain. I know he tuned vocals and things like that.
Absolutely.
I mean, it really was the entire village of Providence.
And I think that's where it's the strongest, honestly.
Yeah.
I think to have a lot of different people with input and skills, talents is gives you a more cohesive project in a way. I mean, not that, there are people that can do it all themselves.
Yeah.
Stevie Wonder did it.
Oh, yeah.
And so I can't argue with that.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not Stevie Wonder. So.
Well, Wes, thank you for coming in today. It's fun to talk, guys.
Absolutely.
We'll talk to you again soon. We got a few more interviews to do, but we'll talk to you later.
Absolutely. I have a question for you. How did you make us giants?
I shrunk down a tree just for today.
Bonsai.
Bonsai Christmas tree.
And Jeannie wanted the bells.
So yeah, let's jump back in. Okay.
All right.
So I don't know the origin story of the bells. I think I came in after the bells, but every year on Christmas Eve, we give this guy a hard time about the bells. So tell us about the bells.
My wife bought them. They were like little school bells.
Yeah.
She bought them to do some sort of concert with her two friends. And so I have a set of bells, and I bring them in to make it all Christmassy because there are really no drums after a couple songs, and you're just kind of sitting there. And it's great. It's great to watch all the candles. I get a video of it every year.
Yeah.
Because I'm not playing the bells at that moment. But yeah, there are bells. They're slightly out of tune. But, they'll probably make an appearance this year.
Yeah. I think. Yeah, probably.
Yeah. They usually do.
Yeah. Yeah. It's Christmas Eve. You got to bring the bells out. Yeah. Dust them off.
Yeah. It's, it all of a sudden it's Christmas.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not Christmas unless the bells are there.
Right.
So how many bells is too many bells?
Too many bells? I would say, I would say if they are played more than, with me playing.
Yeah.
More than once a bar, it's probably too many bells. Yeah. I mean, really, to play them at all is probably too many. But, yeah.
No, it adds that little twinkle on top.
It will add twinkle to the star.
Yeah.
Yes.
We'll see you guys later.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.